Welcome back to the Broncast, podcast all about the Ford Bronco. I'm your host, John Melton.
I'm Donnie Whiteman.
We are a couple Bronco enthusiasts who own Broncos, work on Broncos, and just love talking about El Bronco from Generation 1 all the way through Generation 6. Our sponsor for today's episode is the one and only TOMS Offroad. TOMS Offroad has every part that you need to fully restore a Ford Bronco. All right, so before we get into it, Donnie and I are sitting on the same side of the table because Donnie loves me. No, because
Is that awkward?
we are going to be looking at some footage that I got from the TOMS Offroad event that happened in July, and so we're gonna look through that footage. If you are just listening to this episode, might be cool to head over to YouTube and give it a little eye peek with your eyeballs and give us a little like and subscribe. I don't know what this hand is doing, but like and subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. But yeah, before we get into it, what have you been working on?
The details. Finishing that white truck, like the last bit is the hardest part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to be extremely clean before I can go in the white truck with the new interior. So I'm always cleaning myself, but I'm either under it or in it. But yeah, just doing the shakedown drives and going, what was that rattle? It's like, so we're just trying to make it as quiet as possible.
How many miles have you put on it?
We're at like 36, but I walked a couple miles because this is embarrassing. We got the fuel gauge going because we had to hook it up with our new Classic Instruments cluster.
Yeah.
Tim's like, fuel gauge is working, and I'm like, well, it's pretty low. And he goes, well, you filled it up, and I go, well, then it's not working. And it was accurate. It was on my feet. So he goes, well, how much fuel did you put in it? And I go, like $8.
Which is like a gallon.
Not filling it up. Yeah. So anyway.
How far away were you?
Half a mile.
Oh.
It's 100 degrees out.
Yeah. Oh, it's so hot. That's amazing. I have been there more times than I'd like to count in my Bronco where my fuel gauge didn't work, ran out of gas on the side of the road. And there was a point in my wife and I's marriage where she decided, I'm not picking you up anymore. Oh. Like, I'm not rescuing you if you run out of gas anymore when you're in your Bronco. Either fix the gauge or call a friend. So I had to call a friend a couple times. Yeah, so I used to always carry a fuel, like 5-gallon jug of gas in my Bronco. So yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. I feel you. Yeah. That's cool though. I mean, it's sitting right over there, the old Panama, and it's looking very pretty.
I feel like I haven't seen you in like 3 months, but I know it's only been like 3 weeks.
It has been a long time. I went to Seattle for my niece's wedding and then came home. And then I went to Medford, which is in Oregon, for the TOMS Off-Road event. And then I came home. And then I went to Utah for an Onyx off-road shoot. And then I did not go home.
Wow.
And then I went to LA from Utah, and I got home yesterday. So it has been a lot of traveling. I've been to the West Coast now like 5 or 6 times in the last 3 months. So a lot of flights, a lot of movies watched, a lot of true crime documentaries watched. Just finished The Jinx 2, Part 2. It wasn't as good as the first one, but
No alien stuff?
No alien stuff. Sometimes I'll dabble in the conspiracy theory side. You flat earthers are amazing to me. So yeah, I enjoy it.
I like the one I just saw with the cruise ship where it looks like it's sinking.
It's pretty amazing. So, all right. So I did just go, a couple weeks ago, went to the TOMS Off-Road event, and it was pretty amazing. I got to drive Matt from Matt's Garage, his Bronco.
Oh, his build, nice.
Which his shakedown run, you put 36 miles on yours. His was like 1,600? No, 800.
Wow.
Because he drove from Seattle down to Medford. It's an 8-hour drive.
Wow.
And that was his shakedown run. Then drove around Medford for the event and then drove home. So, and he you should, if you haven't yet seen Matt's video about that event and everything, go check it out. He had a bunch of problems with the Bronco, like clutch fork and all kinds of stuff that he was running into and trying to figure out and repair and all that.
On the way.
On the way.
That's his story.
Like after he got there, he actually bought the TOMS Offroad seats at the event because his stock seats were so uncomfortable that he had just reupholstered. Oh. And he sat in the TOMS Offroad seats, and he just like got up and went to go buy them at the event because they were so comfortable.
You just upgraded.
I did.
A similar upgrade, right?
Yeah, and I'm making a video about that and about how to put the heater pad in the seats because I have the new TOMS Offroad seats, and I'm going to put the heater pad in there where you just flip the switch and you get the toasty buns. You guys know TOMS Offroad is a sponsor for our podcast, but being at the event, it was really cool because they did a whole open house thing where everyone's just walking around. You were there 2 years ago, and everyone's just hanging out in the warehouse. There's Broncos out front. They had this amazing hot dog guy out there. But inside, like they had just a bunch of these parts, it's their showroom. Well, they had this whole section that was all or some of their new parts. And a lot of it was like steel parts, which I was like, oh man, like this is some really cool, interesting stuff. Some of it other vendors have, and just TOMS hasn't ever had. But some of it's new that I've never seen before. So I wanted to
So I haven't
just
actually
show
seen
you.
this. So I don't know what all's new yet.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to hurt our buddy Cat Lover, but TOMS is coming out with a frame horn repair kit. So
nice.
These are, those left and right, top and bottom.
Yep.
So now this isn't as big as what Cat Lover has. What I like about this is, let's just say that the end is just kind of rusted out. Like obviously this would be the bottom part of the front frame horn, and then this is that top part. And so the bottom is rusted out right there at the end. You could get one of these, cut the old one, cut the rusted part off, and slap a new one on there.
Well, look, that is as thick as the factory frame, that steel. And then what I also like is that the hole is oval. It's not round,
right?
Which is more factory. So I think if you were able to weld those on properly, I think you wouldn't know they were replaced.
Yeah. So I was pretty excited to see that. I have more damage.
You need one of those for the back left of your truck.
Yeah. But it's more damage than just that little piece. Because this is, looking over there at that frame, it's just that little piece right there at the edge, and then you would have to just cut down and get to that piece. But that's a common spot where they rust out, right around that hole, because that's where the body mount or the body bushing goes. And so a lot of those are rusted out. So I thought that was a cool, simple, easy to make, easy to sell part.
Well, people restore their Broncos and they'll do everything except for that. And you see these cruddy looking frame ends. And that's like the first thing I do.
Or I've seen people just cut a circle where the body bushing goes and put in a washer. But the washer isn't the same size usually as the frame horn. So you got this little raised part. So I think this is a better option than the washer. And these are, it's not that much more difficult to put in one of these than it would be that washer.
We see the washer trick all the time where people weld a washer over the top and just like tack it in.
Yeah. This is the track bar riser bracket for a Dana 44. So remember a couple episodes ago, we were talking about, to get your suspension right, you want your track bar and your drag link to be parallel right at the front. And I have one of these from a different vendor, a track bar riser bracket that basically goes over where your track bar sits on the Dana 44, and it sits right back there. And what that does is it just holds your track bar in place. Well, TOMS didn't actually have one of these a while ago, so I went to a different vendor to get one. But they did have the track bar drop bracket, which attaches to the frame. Like, there's other things that they had, but this was one that they didn't have. But again, you know, if you're confused about all of that, where that goes, take a look at our other video where we actually talked about suspension and looked at suspension. But this is cool. It has 3 different positions where you could put that track bar to try to get it parallel with the drag link in the front of the Bronco.
Yeah, again, super thick steel.
Yeah, that thing looks beefy. Moving along, okay, this was the one that I was getting pretty excited about. There are 2 parts here. So this is the tubular extended radius arm and then the stock length radius arm.
Oh, nice.
So a couple things to note here. On the tubular extended radius arm, you still have this cutout where it's going to go right where the stock one goes. So this is, you know, your C bushing goes right in that C
so
area.
You're maintaining your 2 degrees or 4 degrees or 7 degrees.
But then it's tubular, it's extended, and it comes down to an end where you can either get a heim joint for it there, you see that heim joint?
Yep.
Or you could, actually I think that's all you can get is the heim joint end, which I'll talk about in a little bit, how to mount that up. Then they also have the stock radius arm. So this is just a replacement stock radius arm.
Beefy.
Super beefy. Yeah, and like looking at that, you know, you have the stock end that goes right into the frame, you know, the hole on the frame. And then it goes down to the same little...
Oh, look, it's set up for 2 shocks too, if you want to run
set
dual
up for
shocks.
duals, yep. Okay, so the next one, so you know me, I'm more of a stock bumper guy. I like the look of a stock bumper, but there are a lot of people that love a, you know, upgraded, beefy, or if you're trying to run a winch or something like that. So TOMS has come out with a new front bumper. It's their impact front bumper. That's your where your fair lead would go.
Oh, hide the winch.
Put the winch behind there. And that thing is super beefy. But what I do like about this bumper and how they designed this system is they also designed a bracket, or they didn't call it a bracket, they called it something else, but where when you install the bumper to the frame, you actually have different positions where if you have a 1-inch lift, 2-inch lift, 3-inch lift, you can move
so it's like
the
a
bumper
riser,
up
you
and
can
down.
adjust it.
Yeah. And I thought, man, that's a great idea to integrate that bracket in there where you can actually move it into different positions depending on how much body lift and stuff like that you have. I told them, I said, you need to make that bracket for the stock bumper as well.
Yeah. So is that ready?
Yeah. That
Do you
one,
know what retail was on that?
you know, they didn't have the prices out. I should have written down what the prices were, or looked at and to see what the prices were.
I like that they radiused and smoothed all the corners off, because a Bronco doesn't have any, you know, it's not like a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
You know, all the corners are rounded, so that bumper looks nice.
Yeah. They did a good job with it for sure. All right, another one, part number 6, rear fuel tank brackets. Now this one, I don't remember what was different about these, but I just thought, oh, it's a good idea to be making fuel tank brackets. So
yeah, it looks like it holds a stock tank.
Yeah, stock tank, and but that was it. That was all.
I got excited about that.
I was like, oh, that's cool. Now I don't remember why I was excited.
Oh, oil pan rails.
Dude, yes.
Seriously?
So the next one, small block Ford.
You can't even get these.
No. And like, they are so nice. So if you're a Bronco guy, you know the dilemma, like your oil pan just, the shape of it changes,
it just leaks.
It just leaks.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do is either buy a new oil pan or you buy these. Look how thick that is.
Or if you're lucky, your oil pan still has those on.
Right.
You may have to straighten them out, but wow, those are crazy thick.
Really thick. I mean, that is maybe, I don't know, quarter of an inch. It was pretty thick, but I was like, oh man, this is a great thing to have for Bronco guys. Like, you're able to just, it's a thick steel that you can, when you're putting your oil pan on, you put that on, and it just keeps it snug up against the motor. And
those are pretty thick. And I do know when you use those, you do need a little longer bolt.
Yes.
I think the stock bolts are
they
too short.
Did come with, yeah.
Oh yeah, look,
so they come with the hardware.
Bolts.
Yeah. So.
Oh, and which heads are those? Socket heads?
They look like it.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get a wrench in there. Or a
ratchet.
Because
it's going to be harder to do that.
Socket. Couldn't think of
a socket.
What it was called.
Yeah. I know. I always get everything confused. But yeah, those, I was excited about that. I was like, all right, immediate wish list.
I've been having to buy used ones and straightening them because nobody makes those.
There you go.
Nice.
Now TOMS does. All right, the other one, we've heard about the 23-gallon tank, but they came out with a stainless steel version. So the version that they had was just steel, and it was powder coated. So this one is a stainless steel version, so should be much more resistant to rust. And they send it to you in this raw form. I actually have one of these, and it's just stainless steel, so it's going to last a lot longer. It's going to hold up to the elements. You could get it powder coated if you wanted to, but a lot less prone to rust, especially back there in the back of the truck, where it's going to get a lot.
Well, and you're going to get less things inside the tank too. Sometimes rust isn't an issue on the outside of the tank, but more the inside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you get moisture in there and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
We're talking like 30-year-old tanks.
You know that I got to ride with Jason Dady, and he had a 408 stroker and the 6R80 transmission.
Oh, the automatics.
6-speed.
6-speed.
Floor, it loves it.
All right, here we go.
To
the floor. This was in the coming soon product section. But it was the 6R80 to small block Ford adapter plate. So super cool. And if you haven't watched that video where I drove his Bronco, man, I mean, I stepped on it and the whole back end just squatted down and just like that 408 had
Is he coilovers in the back? Do you know?
No, I think he still had.
Now Hardy is.
Yeah. I forget.
So had so much power, just squat down.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but he had the 6R80, which was cool, but also, man, it went through first to third or fourth gear super quick. And I was almost like, and he was like, yeah, I think I need to adjust it a little bit more because it climbed through the gears so fast that it almost felt, like, what's the point? Like it was just skipping gears almost. I would love to have a 6R80 in the back of my truck. I think that's a really cool transmission to have for sure. Now there's a couple other pieces around here that we're going to get to. The first one is those inner fender cutouts, and I think those are really neat. The engine bay on the Bronco just doesn't breathe a whole lot, and it just gets really hot. And so by adding, cutting out the inner fender there and adding these, you got your exhaust manifolds or your headers right there.
It lets that breathe out the fender wells. But what's nice about these, a lot of people have been cutting those out and putting like screen in, which doesn't look good. And these look like you just spot weld them in place of the ones you take out.
Yep.
Those look good.
Yeah, they really do. I think they did a good job with it. The next thing is these hood stiffening braces. So this goes with the if you have the
hood struts, shocks.
Yeah, the shocks. Because usually those just go in the middle of the hood. But what happens is to kind of get that first little release of the shock, you pull down. Well, that shock is doing its job and holding the hood up, and you're pulling down, and there's so much material in that hood from where that shock goes that what ends up happening is you start getting a little bend
And then you crack
in the
your
hood.
paint.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what TOMS did was they recognized the problem and said, okay, let's make these braces so it actually runs in the rail of the hood so that when you do pull, you're not pulling, half the hood.
Well, at one point where it wants to like
Yes.
fold your hood.
Yeah.
The fiberglass hoods have to have that.
Yeah. Yeah. So really nice. Matt from Matt's Garage had those on his truck, and he was like, it made such a difference because he was like, you'll start to just feel the give that, before the hood struts release, and he was like, it was scary. So he threw those on his truck.
Nice.
This is a body filler panel that goes under the grill. So when you have a 1-inch body lift or a 2-inch body lift.
And on a pickup truck, they'd call it a roll pan.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Roll pan. Yeah.
And this fits in that gap underneath. You know how the Ford grill has the gap?
Yeah.
This fills that in.
Yeah. So super
that's
nice.
nice.
And I think I'll put this on my build, my restoration, because it just fits in there, and you just tack it into place or put it in there, and then when you're doing all your paint and body work, you just paint it with the rest of the truck.
Yeah, that's nice.
And it works. Now this one was interesting. They had this whole center column system, and it was actually kind of hard for me to imagine it in
like
a Bronco.
a console.
Yeah, center console that goes from the dash down. How they built it is they kind of did it where it's a little bit modular. So if you wanted a little bit or more, like it kind of you can get it different sizes and get
You can
different.
put it sort of as front, forward, or backward, aft as you want.
Yeah, and I forget, but the other thing was I think it kind of went into like a if you had the Tuffy console, like it kind of all flowed together. Like again, this one I was looking at and I was having a hard time piecing, because some of these parts you're just looking at them on a table and not in a truck, and you're like, huh? How does
This
that
looks
work?
like it fills the space between the front of the Tuffy box all the way up and under the dash. That's neat.
This right here is part of would be the dash.
Yeah.
So that like lip is where, right up
Yeah.
against the dash, and then that face comes down there.
It would give you a place to put some speakers too.
Yeah,
To point them out towards the feet.
Yeah. I think you could do a lot with it for sure. Okay, this one I'm super excited about. This I'm definitely putting on my build ASAP. So this is a Fender Liner.
It's an insert that goes between the
Yes.
fender and the inner fender on the
Yes.
inside. And then you could run some of your hoses up
That's
through
what I
there,
want to do.
or your wiring.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like has a lip that's kind of this soft, plasticky, like, I don't know, screen door type lip kind of thing. But man, I was looking at this just like, oh, that solves my problems right there. And what that lip does too, this is actually under the truck, is when you get that little bit of body movement, it's not metal on metal. You've got this piece of rubber, plastic, whatever it is, that's kind of just holding it on there tight, but not allowing rocks to get kicked up there.
Yeah, it's a nice gasket.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really nice thought through.
Usually a custom builder, if you're spending $200,000, would make those for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to keep, if you think about everything up in there clean.
Mm-hmm. We come to this, which I'm pretty stoked about. And I don't think I caught all the pieces and parts of this. But this was like, this made me very happy. So we've got the coil-over suspension kit, and then we've got the 4-link suspension kit.
Oh,
so
wow.
One and the same if you wanted to, but also you could just do coilovers if you wanted to, or, because you could run coilovers and those springs. I forget what those are called.
leaf
springs. Thank you. But you could also run coilovers and a 4-link. And so remember at the beginning when we were looking at that extended radius arm, this is how all that kind of comes into play. So first, we have our just coilover shock towers. So you've got the front shock tower, and on the other side you have the rear shock tower. And it's pretty simple design. We've seen lots of these before, these different kinds of shock towers. You cut the old shock tower off your frame and weld the new one on. Same with these rear coil cups.
That gets me really pumped up. The rears, to eliminate the springs, I mean, we're talking about 100-year-old technology, even though like TOMS 11 pack leaf spring rides nice.
Right.
It's still not a coilover, and they ride so soft.
Mm-hmm. This is kind of the, if you did coilovers and the 4-link kit, this is a really cool thing. This is kind of the main piece. So this is the bracket that attaches under the belly of the frame, and this is where all your links come into. So on the rear, you'll have 2 links coming from each side, your upper and lower link.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the front, how they made this is for that extended radius arm. So
brings them all together.
Yeah, everything kind of comes from this one piece that then slides up onto your frame. You weld it in place, and then all your links kind of go out from there with your heim joints and all that. Man, super cool system. And we've talked about, the wheelbase on a Bronco is only 96 inches. Is that right?
It was close.
92.
92.
Yeah, 92 inches, which, when you're wheeling with something under 100 inches, 110 inches, you're pretty limited on where you can put stuff. And even one of my buddies, Ian Johnson, we were out filming in Utah and watching this guy put a 4-link suspension in, and the guy was asking him well, now, and giving it kind of all this math of, well, I should do this and have this and do this and have this. And Ian was like, all that math, it works, but really you just got to do what the truck's going to allow you to do, And what I like about this is Tom's kind of figured out a package to get 4-link to work on the early Bronco, all in kind of, these main pieces. Yeah, I'm sure people would look at it and say, oh, they should have done this or they should have done that, or you're gonna have problems here. That probably is, you can look at anyone's 4-link setup and go, oh, they should have done this, they should have done that. But what I like about this is this has been being tested on Angel's truck. It's been being tested on a bunch of the guys' trucks, and they've been wheeling with it, and it's been handling really well.
I like all the innovation that we're seeing in these new products that we didn't see a couple years ago, but all the guys in the back are wheeling.
Yes.
And they're welding this stuff up anyway. So now it's becoming products that you can buy. And Northwest wheeling trucks,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're serious. I mean, they're hitting some hard trails with those things.
I've been talking to Angel about this for, I feel like a couple of years now, and just when is this coming out? Please let me put it on my truck. I can't wait to get my hands on this because it's so cool. A 4-link setup. Here's the links, the actual links. It's just such a cool setup and gives you so much more flexibility off-road, and you just screw the heims in there, and it's a really neat setup. And then this is the truss that goes on the Ford 9-inch or whatever rear axle you have. You can see there, your 2 links go straight in there. Those are your upper links, and then down here you'd put your lower links. And so it's cool that they're working on this stuff and building it and putting it all together, and
they've been using it the whole time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And if you've signed up, if you're a TOMS insider or you bought anything from TOMS, you should have gotten an email a couple weeks ago that they got their diamond patterned seats in.
And they looked amazing. They looked great.
And they're in stock. I think they have the deerskin, which is tan, and then they have walnut, which is what you have, the dark brown. And those are going to be a huge hit because they're not really much more money than their seats were anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that they had was they had a new design of a soft top. It worked really, really well, like taking it on and off. It's similar to the old the designs that we've all seen of the soft top, but I felt like it didn't look as goofy. Like, I don't know, the soft top to me has always kind of looked goofy.
Well, they look like in 1930s cars.
Yeah.
Model A top.
That's
like
how it looks, yes.
They like
and the new
didn't
one
curve it or do anything.
The new one kind of solves some of that, which I appreciated about it. So it was really nice. So be on the lookout for those diamond stitch seats and the soft top and all these parts as well. Hopefully, you can scroll back through the video and find the part number and see when those parts are available. But definitely some cool parts there.
Wow, a lot of new stuff.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.